Welcome to month 6 of the Senior Copilot Studio admin track. This is the Capstone session, the point where everything you have built across 5 months of administration, configuration, and automation converges into a production deployment model at enterprise scale. Month 1 gave you the platform foundations and admin center architecture. Months 2 and 3 established core configuration, topics, entities, and knowledge source integration. Months 4 and 5 extended that into autonomous agents, Power Automate integration, and MCP tools. Today, you bring all of it to scale, deploying to Teams and M365 Copilot, measuring impact through analytics, automating governance with the Power Platform API, and evaluating your deployment against the responsible AI standards that appear on the AB 100 certification exam. 5 objectives define this session. You will deploy agents through both the Teams channel and the M365 Copilot catalog. You will understand the architectural difference between custom agents and declarative agents for M365 Copilot. You will analyze both conversational and autonomous agent metrics from the Admin Center Analytics stack. You will automate governance using the Power Platform API and the Power Platform for Admin's V2 connector, and you will evaluate your deployment against the AB 100 responsible AI domain. By the end of hour 4, you will have 4 deliverables that together constitute your Capstone package and your evidence base for the AB 100 exam. This is where senior-level administration is demonstrated, not described. 4 hours, 4 outcome areas. Let me walk you through the shape of the day. Hour 1 covers everything you need to know to deploy agents beyond the test canvas, Teams channel prerequisites, the 2 distribution paths, app setup policies, and how to extend M365 Copilot with agents from your catalog. We close hour 1 with a case study on Meridian Financial Services, which will become the scenario thread running through your Capstone deliverables. Hour 2 goes deep on analytics, conversational metrics, autonomous run analytics, and the role-based access controls that govern who can see what. There is a live workshop where you open your own tenant and look at real data. Hour 3 is hands-on governance automation. You will build a Power Automate flow that calls the Power Platform API to enumerate agents and flag governance gaps. You will also start the responsible AI audit worksheet. Hour 4 is presentations. You wrap your Capstone package and present it to the group for peer feedback. The certification gate at the end of this session is AB 100. You should schedule that exam within 2 weeks of today. Timing: 4 minutes facilitation tip. Point to each hour card and confirm that participants have bookmarked all 4 admin portals: Copilot Studio, Power Platform Admin Center, Teams Admin Center, and Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Deploying a Copilot Studio agent to Microsoft Teams follows a 5-step administrative sequence. Each step is required in order. Skipping or reordering any step produces errors that are not always obvious from the error message alone. Step 1. Enable the Teams channel in the Copilot Studio portal and configure the app name and icon. The app name and icon you set here become the agent's Teams identity. If your organization requires a specific brand name or corporate icon in Teams, configure them at this step, not after the manifest is submitted. Step 2. Publish the agent. A saved but unpublished agent generates an installation link that appears valid but produces an error when users attempt to install it. The agent must have at least one published version before any deployment action proceeds. Step 3. Generate the installation link from the Copilot Studio portal. You can share this link directly with a pilot user group for manual installation, or you can submit the agent to the Teams Admin Center for broader rollout. Step 4. The Teams administrator must approve the app submission in the Teams Admin Center under Manage Apps. Even if the submitter holds admin rights, apps do not auto-approve. The submission enters a pending state and must be explicitly approved before users can install the agent. Step 5. Configure the app setup policy. Auto-install pushes the agent to targeted users, without requiring them to find and install it manually. Pinning to the left rail places the agent as a persistent icon in Teams navigation, appropriate for high-traffic agents that every user accesses regularly, but not appropriate for specialist tools used infrequently. 3 prerequisites must be in place before any of these steps. The agent must be published. The maker must hold a Copilot Studio standalone license or a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. And the agent must not use connectors blocked by an active DLP policy in the environment. A DLP violation will not prevent installation. It will cause the agent to fail silently at runtime when it attempts to call the blocked connector. One authentication constraint that affects governance automation in Hour 3. Personal Microsoft accounts cannot obtain bearer tokens for the Power Platform API. All API authentication in this session requires work or school accounts. When you deploy a Copilot Studio agent to Teams, you choose between 2 distribution paths. The choice is a governance and branding decision, not a technical capability decision. Both paths deliver the same agent functionality. The first path is built with Power Platform. Microsoft manages the publish and surfaces the agent in the Teams App Store under the Power Platform publisher identity. The app manifest is auto-generated from your Copilot Studio settings. You can customize the agent name and icon within Copilot Studio, but you cannot override other manifest properties. This path is best for fast internal rollouts where exact corporate branding is not a hard requirement. End users see Power Platform branding alongside the agent name. The second path is built for your org. As the Teams admin, you upload a custom app manifest directly to the Teams Admin Center. You control the app name, icon, description, version, and targeted audience. The agent is available only to users in your organizational catalog. It is not visible to external users or guests. No Power Platform branding appears to end users. This path is best for agents that must match a specific corporate app catalog standard or target a particular department. The decision rule is straightforward. If the agent needs a custom icon, a specific display name in the Teams left rail, or must match your corporate app catalog layout, use built for your org. If speed of deployment matters more than precise branding control, built with Power Platform is the faster path to production. In regulated enterprise environments, externally visible or compliance-sensitive agents typically use built for your org. High-volume all-staff tools like IT help desk agents often use built with Power Platform because the deployment speed advantage outweighs the branding consideration. Surfacing a Copilot Studio agent in the M365 Copilot catalog is a distinct deployment surface from Teams channels. Instead of being an app that users install in Teams, the agent becomes a tool within the M365 Copilot chat interface, available as a named capability for all users who hold active Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses. The publishing process follows 4 steps. First, in the Copilot Studio portal, you promote the agent to the organizational catalog. This triggers a submission request. The agent is not immediately published. Second, an administrator approves the submission in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center under the Integrated Apps Blade. This is a separate admin portal from the Teams Admin Center, and in many organizations, the approver is a different person. Third, once approved, the agent surfaces as a tool within M365 Copilot Chat. Users see it listed under Agents in the chat sidebar. Fourth, suggested prompts you declared in the agent configuration appear natively in the M365 Copilot Chat interface as quick start options for users. Agent configuration for catalog deployment has 4 components. Tool bindings connect the agent to power automate flows, custom connectors, HTTP actions, Microsoft Graph connectors, and MCP tools. Knowledge sources can include SharePoint sites, Microsoft Graph content, Dataverse tables, custom connectors, and public URLs. Suggested prompts guide users toward the agent's intended use cases. And once approved, The agent appears in the organizational catalog for all licensed users in the tenant. The license requirement is precise. End users must hold active Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses to interact with published catalog agents. Developer tenant trial licenses may not include this entitlement. If your developer tenant does not have M365 Copilot licenses, you can configure and submit the agent, but will need a production tenant with licensed users to verify the end-user experience. Understanding the difference between custom agents and declarative agents is one of the most frequently tested concepts on the AB 100 exam. The two agent types are not interchangeable. They serve different use cases, run on different orchestration layers, and are licensed differently. A custom agent runs on the Copilot Studio orchestration engine. It operates independently of M365 Copilot. Its knowledge model is broad: SharePoint sites, URLs, Dataverse tables, and custom connectors. Its tools and actions include Power Automate flows, HTTP calls, connectors, and MCP tools, with full orchestration control within the Copilot Studio runtime. Custom agents publish to Teams, web, and other channels. They consume Copilot Studio session capacity or credits. Custom agents are best suited for structured conversational workflows, interactive voice response replacements, and automation-heavy scenarios where the conversation flow is precisely controlled. A declarative agent runs on the Microsoft 365 Copilot orchestration layer. It extends M365 Copilot rather than replacing it. Its knowledge model is graph-connected, SharePoint and Microsoft 365 content that M365 Copilot already accesses, plus declared SharePoint sites. Tools are called via plugin declaration. M365 Copilot orchestrates the tool call, not Copilot Studio directly. Declarative agents publish exclusively through the M365 Copilot organizational catalog. They require Microsoft 365 Copilot licenses for end users. There is no Copilot Studio session consumption. Declarative agents are best suited for knowledge worker productivity scenarios, document question and answer, meeting preparation, and policy lookup over graph-connected organizational content, the decision framework for choosing between them. If the scenario involves structured multi-turn conversation with branching logic or IVR-style flows, choose a custom agent. If it involves knowledge workers performing intelligent search over Microsoft 365 content, choose a declarative agent. If the use case is complex back-end process automation, a custom agent with Power Automate actions is the correct architecture. Meridian Financial Services built 6 agents across months 3 through 5, all of which are currently accessible only through the Copilot Studio test canvas. Leadership wants them deployed to teams for all 3,000 employees and surfaced in M365 Copilot for the 400 licensed knowledge workers. The deployment mapping decision for each agent follows directly from the custom versus declarative framework. The HR policy agent goes to M365 Copilot. Policy lookup is a knowledge worker productivity scenario. The content lives in SharePoint, and the declarative agent model maps precisely to how knowledge workers already use M365 Copilot. The lone inquiry agent goes to Teams for all staff. This is a structured multi-turn workflow with branching for loan types, eligibility criteria, and document requests, exactly the pattern where a custom agent with session-controlled conversation is required. The compliance checker goes to M365 Copilot regulatory document question and answer over SharePoint-hosted compliance documentation, serving the knowledge worker population. The IT help desk agent goes to Teams for all staff high session volume, all staff audience, structured workflow for IT request routing. The meeting prep agent goes to M365 Copilot, knowledge worker productivity, graph-connected meeting context. The document summarizer goes to M365 Copilot, document intelligence over organizational content. For the Teams agents, the deployment path decision is also specific. The Loan Inquiry Agent and IT Help Desk Agent are high visibility, all staff agents in a regulated financial services organization. Both are candidates for Built for Your Org with a custom manifest, so they appear in the corporate app catalog with institutional branding. Auto-pinning the IT Help Desk Agent for all 3,000 employees is warranted given the frequency of IT request generation. The Loan Inquiry Agent may be pinned for customer-facing roles specifically rather than company-wide. The license check for the M365 Copilot agents is straightforward. All 4 agents targeting the M365 Copilot catalog require active M365 Copilot licenses for the 400 knowledge workers. Verify the license assignments before catalog submission. Once an agent is approved in the catalog, it surfaces immediately to all licensed users in the tenant. Copilot Studio provides a structured analytics dashboard for conversational agents with 6 core metrics, all retained for 180 days except transcript-related data. Session count measures conversation blocks. A session resets after 30 minutes of user inactivity. This matters for billing. 2 sessions are billed instead of 1 if a user pauses mid-conversation for more than 30 minutes. High session count does not always indicate high engagement. A large number of short sessions where users never sent a follow-up message is a quality signal worth investigating. Engagement rate is the percentage of sessions where the user sent at least 1 follow-up message after the agent's first response. Low engagement rate means users are not continuing the conversation, either because the first answer was complete or because the first answer was unsatisfactory. Cross-reference with resolution rate to distinguish the 2 interpretations. Escalation rate is the percentage of sessions that transferred to a human agent. For a financial services deployment, a target escalation rate depends on the workflow type. Loan inquiry agents handling complex eligibility questions may legitimately escalate 20 to 30% of sessions to specialists. An escalation rate trending upward over time indicates topic coverage gaps. Resolution rate is the percentage of sessions resolved without escalation. Together with escalation rate, it gives you the operational health picture for each agent. Both should be measured at 30, 60, and 90 days post-deployment as part of the ROI documentation requirement. Customer sentiment is an AI-classified metric, positive, neutral, or negative per session. As of May 2026, this is a preview feature. Validate sentiment output against transcript review before reporting sentiment data to stakeholders or incorporating it into formal business case documentation. Transcript download uses a rolling 28-day retention window. Transcripts older than 28 days cannot be retrieved. If your compliance or audit requirements mandate longer retention, transcripts must be exported on a regular schedule and stored in an external system. This is an operational runbook item that must be established at deployment time, not discovered during an audit. 2 roles control analytics access. The Analytics Viewer role is assigned in the Power Platform Admin Center and grants read-only dashboard access for all agents without granting authoring permissions. Assign this to business stakeholders and operations analysts. The Bot Transcript Viewer role is a Dataverse security role assigned within the environment and is required to download conversation transcripts. Both roles are required for full reporting access. Assigning only Analytics Viewer does not enable transcript download. This is one of the most common analytics access misconfiguration patterns. Autonomous agents operate on a different execution model than conversational agents, and their analytics reflect that difference. Rather than session-based conversation metrics, autonomous agent analytics track run executions, discrete trigger-based events with step-level diagnostic detail. 5 metrics are tracked with 180-day retention. Total runs counts the trigger executions in a selected time range, covering scheduled triggers, event-based triggers, and manual executions. This is your workload volume baseline and your starting point for capacity planning. Run success rate is the primary health indicator, the percentage of runs that completed without an unhandled exception. For production financial workflows, a run success rate below 99% warrants investigation. The diagnostic path starts with step-level drill down. Trigger health measures the reliability of the trigger mechanism itself, scheduled versus event-based versus manual. A trigger that misses its scheduled window does not generate a failed run record because no run was attempted. Trigger health exposes these missed windows. A trigger reliability problem that is not caught early can result in data gaps or missed SLA windows that are difficult to reconstruct after the fact. Step success rate is the most diagnostically powerful metric. It measures the percentage of individual action steps that completed successfully within a run. A run can succeed overall while containing individual steps with high failure rates if error handling absorbs the exceptions. A connector step operating at 60% success rate is a critical incident that should be treated as such even if the overall run success rate remains high. Connector call latency reports P50 and P95 latency for outbound connector calls. The P95 number is your SLA validation point. If P95 consistently exceeds the connector SLA boundary, you have a latency risk that will affect your most time-sensitive runs under peak load. Two structural differences from conversational analytics are important to understand. Autonomous runs have no session concept. Each trigger execution is a discrete run, with no 30-minute inactivity window. And autonomous analytics appear in a dedicated run analytics pane in the admin center, separate from the conversational metrics dashboard. When run failure spikes occur, the fastest root cause path is to cross-reference with DLP policy change timestamps in the Admin Center Monitor tab. A DLP policy change that blocks a connector causes downstream run failures with authorization errors that can look like connector outages. If DLP changes do not explain the spike, check the Power Platform Service Health page for connector outage events. The Power Platform Admin Center provides 5 governance features that together give you operational and compliance control over the agent estate at tenant scope. Inventory in the Manage tab is your full catalog of all agents, flows, apps, and connectors across every environment in the tenant. The key admin actions are filtering by type, environment, and owner, exporting to CSV for audit reporting, and identifying ungoverned agents, those with no owner assignment or no DLP policy association. This catalog view is what the governance automation flow in Hour 3 automates. Usage tracking shows session volume, active users, and credit consumption per agent. The admin actions are setting thresholds that trigger capacity review, identifying underused agents for decommissioning consideration, and correlating credit burn to specific agents when the tenant approaches capacity limits. An agent consuming significant credits with near zero active users is a governance finding that should be escalated to the agent owner. Monitor provides operational health data, error rates, latency spikes, and connector failures. Configuring alerts at the 80% capacity threshold is non-optional in a production tenant. At 80% capacity, you have time to procure additional capacity or reallocate credits. At 100%, the service stops responding before you receive the alert. Actions surfaces risk identification and remediation recommendations generated by the Admin Center's policy analysis engine. Flagged items include policy violations, overshared agents, and high-risk connector configurations. Remediating findings in pane where the feature allows reduces the manual effort of compliance cycles. Copilot Hub provides governance controls specific to generative AI features. The admin actions here are toggling Bing grounding, cross-geo AI call routing, and sensitive data handling settings, and tracking Copilot usage per environment. The cross-geo AI calls toggle deserves specific attention. It is located in Copilot Hub and is the authoritative control for data residency in the Copilot Studio generative AI pipeline. Disabling it forces Azure Open AI processing to remain within the region where the environment is provisioned. Simply provisioning an environment in a specific Azure geography does not guarantee that generative AI calls stay within that region. The cross-geo toggle must also be explicitly disabled. This distinction is directly tested in the AB100 exam. The Power Platform API governance stack has 3 layers, each serving a different role in automated tenant administration. The base layer is the Power Platform API at API, Power Platform, COM. This is the REST API that exposes environments, DLP policies, capacity data, and agent inventory to programmatic access. All calls require an Azure Active Directory bearer token obtained through a client credentials grant against the tenant's token endpoint. The Inventory API is a subset of the Power Platform API that returns structured lists of all Canvas apps, cloud flows, and agents across every environment in the tenant. Its key capability is cross-environment scope. You query the Inventory API once and receive agent data from all environments, rather than querying each environment individually. This is what makes tenant-scale governance automation practical. The Power Platform for Admin's V2 connector is a certified Power Automate connector that wraps the Power Platform API. The connector handles OAuth token acquisition and refresh automatically. There are no custom HTTP calls to write, and no token expiry logic to manage. For governance flows built in Power Automate, the V2 connector is the correct starting point. Use custom HTTP calls to the base API only when you need fine-grained control that the connector does not expose, or when integrating with a CI/CD pipeline outside Power Automate. The authentication pattern for direct API calls uses a client credentials grant. The application posts to the Azure AD token endpoint for the tenant, with the client ID, client secret, the scope set to API, Power Platform, COM/default, and the grant type set to client credentials. The bearer token returned is then passed as an authorization header on every subsequent API request. The Inventory API call to enumerate agents in a specific environment uses a GET request to the chatbot's endpoint under App Management/Environments. One authentication constraint applies throughout this session. Personal Microsoft accounts cannot obtain bearer tokens for this API. All authentication for the Power Platform API, whether through direct HTTP calls or through the V2 connector, requires work or school accounts. If you encounter authentication errors during the governance flow build, the first diagnostic question is whether the account used is a work or school account with appropriate Power Platform admin rights. The governance automation flow you will build in Hour 3 implements a daily DLP policy audit, a scheduled flow that identifies every agent in the tenant operating without a DLP policy boundary and reports them to a Teams governance channel. The flow has 5 steps. The first step is a scheduled trigger in Power Automate, a daily recurrence configured to run at 0600 UTC. Running before business hours means the governance report is available at the start of each working day without any manual admin action. The second step enumerates all environments using the Power Platform for Admin's V2 connectors list environments action. This returns all environment ID in the tenant, which are required for the inventory calls in the next step. The third step retrieves agent inventory for each environment. For each environment returned in step 2, the flow calls the Inventory API to retrieve all agents with their DLP policy associations. This is an inner loop, one Inventory API call per environment. The fourth step filters the agent array to identify ungoverned agents. The filter condition is agents where the DLP policy property is null or empty. These agents have been deployed to production or are active in development environments with no data loss prevention boundary. They represent a governance gap that the daily report surfaces before an audit or incident exposes them. The fifth step posts the results to a Teams channel. The Teams connector sends an adaptive card listing the environment name, agent owner, and created date for each ungoverned agent identified. The receiving channel should be monitored by the platform governance or cloud operations team, not by makers. Two implementation details determine whether the flow works correctly at scale. First, use the V2 connector for the environment enumeration and agent inventory steps before considering custom HTTP calls. The connector handles OAuth automatically and significantly reduces flow complexity. Second, the inventory API returns paged results. Without pagination logic, the flow reads only the first page of results and silently misses every agent beyond the page boundary. Implement a do until loop that continues iterating on the next link property in the response until no continuation token is returned. If Azure AD app registration is blocked by your tenant's application registration policy, authenticate using the V2 connector with a service account sign-in. The service account must be a work or school account with Power Platform admin or environment admin rights. Document which service account is used. This is an audit trail requirement. Responsible AI and governance together represent approximately 30% of the AB 100 assessment. The controls on this slide are not theoretical. They map directly to exam questions that ask you to identify the correct configuration path, the correct audit source, and the correct remediation action for responsible AI scenarios. 3 security and privacy controls define the baseline for compliant agent deployment. Prompt injection defense addresses the risk that user input in a conversation turn contains embedded instructions designed to override the agent system prompt behavior. Configuring input sanitization in agent instructions reduces the attack surface by processing user input before it reaches the generative AI call. System prompt isolation prevents user-injected instructions from reaching the model's context in an authoritative role. Both controls must be configured and tested with adversarial inputs before production deployment. Testing with variations of instruction override patterns, inputs that attempt to redirect the agent, reveal its system prompt, or bypass its scope, should be part of every pre-deployment validation checklist. Data residency controls require 2 independent configuration actions, not 1. The environment must be provisioned in the required Azure geography, and the cross-geo AI calls toggle in Copilot Hub must be explicitly disabled. Environment geography controls where Dataverse data is stored. The cross-geo toggle controls where the Azure OpenAI generative AI processing occurs. Without disabling the toggle, Azure OpenAI routing may process requests in a different regions and point regardless of where the environment is provisioned. In financial services and healthcare deployments operating under data sovereignty regulations, both configurations are mandatory and both must be verified, not assumed. Access controls for model tuning restrict who can modify agent instructions and knowledge sources. In production environments, use solution-managed agents. This requires all changes to agent instructions to go through the OM pipeline rather than being made directly in the Copilot Studio portal. Direct portal changes to production agent instructions bypass the change management process and leave no deployment audit trail. 2 audit and accountability controls complete the responsible AI framework. Dataverse audit logging captures all agent configuration changes with user identity, timestamp, and change detail. Power Platform Admin Center activity logs capture publish events and policy changes. Together, these 2 sources provide the audit trail required for compliance reporting and for the AB 100 exam's governance competency questions. Retain for 90 to 365 days per your organizational policy. Export to a SIEM or Azure storage account if native retention is insufficient. ROI justification is the final responsible AI component for AB 100 purposes. Documenting handle time, escalation rate, and cost per interaction before and after deployment constitutes the evidence base for the business case competency. The exam expects named metrics, numeric baselines, and measurable outcomes, not assertions of general improvement. The AB 100 business case competency requires you to construct a measurable ROI justification from operational data, not from estimates or assertions. The Meridian Loan Inquiry Agent provides a concrete worked example of the methodology. The baseline is established from pre-deployment contact center data. The Loan Inquiry Agent handles 10,000 sessions per month. Before deployment, each session was handled by a human agent at an average of 8 minutes per interaction, at a blended cost of £0.45 per minute. That produces a baseline monthly cost of £36,000. Post-deployment, the agent achieves a 72% resolution rate, meaning 200 of the 10,000 monthly sessions are resolved by the agent without human escalation. The Copilot Studio platform cost for those 200 agent-handled sessions is approximately £160 per month. Human agents handle the remaining 28% of sessions that escalate. The net monthly saving, after platform cost and the cost of escalated sessions handled by humans, is approximately £23,688. The calculation methodology matters for the exam. The AB 100 business case question expects 4 elements: a named baseline metric, a numeric value for that metric, a post-deployment measurement source, and a measurable outcome expressed as a specific number. Saying the agent improved efficiency does not satisfy the competency. Saying the agent reduced average handle time from 8 minutes to 24 minutes for the 72% of sessions it resolved, producing a monthly saving of £23,688 does. The required evidence for the AB 100 business case has 4 components. Baseline metrics must be recorded before agent deployment, handle time, escalation rate, and cost per interaction from the contact center system of record. Post-deployment metrics must be measured at 30, 60, and 90 days post-launch using the Copilot Studio conversational analytics dashboard. Resolution rate must be pulled from the analytics dashboard, not from surveys or stakeholder estimates. And the overall business case must connect a named metric to a numeric baseline and a measurable operational outcome. The analytics baseline report you produce in hour 2 of this session is the post-deployment measurement component of this evidence chain. Collect it carefully. It is deliverable 3 and the raw material for any ROI documentation you produce for this deployment. 4 deliverables form the Capstone package for month 6, each weighted equally at 25% of the assessment. Deliverable 1 is the Teams and M365 Copilot deployment documentation. You map all Meridian agents to the correct deployment paths, building on the case study work from hour 1. The documentation covers the admin approval workflow steps for each path, which portals are involved, which approval actions must be completed, and which distribution path was selected for each Teams deployed agent. Screenshot evidence from the Teams Admin Center and Microsoft 365 Admin Center is required. Deliverable 2 is the governance automation flow. This is the Power Automate flow you build in hour 3, the daily DLP policy audit that enumerates all agents in the tenant, identifies those with no DLP policy applied, and posts a summary adaptive card to a Teams governance channel. Run history evidence showing at least 1 successful execution is required alongside the flow design screenshots. Deliverable 3 is the analytics baseline report. You populate the conversational metrics table, session count, engagement rate, escalation rate, resolution rate, and sentiment where available from your developer tenant agent data collected during hour 2. For autonomous agents in your tenant, you add run count, run success rate, trigger health, and step success rate. This report is the quantitative foundation for any ROI justification you build from this deployment. Deliverable 4 is the responsible AI audit worksheet. All 4 sections must be completed. Prompt injection test cases documenting at least 3 adversarial input patterns and the observed agent responses. Data residency configuration evidence, including a screenshot of the cross-geo AI calls toggle setting in Copilot Hub. Model access controls verification confirming who holds rights to modify agent instructions in each environment. An audit trail completeness review confirming that Dataverse audit logging is enabled and that retention meets your organizational policy requirements. The timing structure for the session works as follows. Deliverables 2 and 4 are built and completed during hours 3 and 4, as they are active construction and verification tasks. Deliverables 1 and 3 are finalized in hour 4, using the documentation and analytics data collected in hours 1 and 2. All 4 deliverables are presented together as the Capstone package in the final 25 minutes of the session. The AB 100, Agentic AI Business Solutions Architect certification covers 4 exam domains, and this 6-month track was structured specifically to address all of them with applied hands-on content. The Design Agentic AI Solutions domain was covered in months 3 through 5, Agent Design Principles, Orchestration Engine Behavior, Tool Bindings, Knowledge Source Selection and Configuration, and the Custom versus Declarative Agent Decision Framework. The Implement and Deploy Agents domain is covered in month 6. The Teams Channel Deployment Lifecycle, the 2 distribution paths, M365 Copilot Catalog Publishing, and App Setup Policy Configuration are all deployment implementation competencies the exam tests. The Govern and Monitor AI Solutions domain is covered in month 6. The Analytics Stack, the 5 Admin Center governance features, and the Power Platform API governance automation flow you built today represent the operational governance competencies assessed in this domain. The Responsible AI Practices domain is covered in month 6. Prompt injection defense, data residency controls, access controls for model modification, audit trail configuration, and ROI justification are the exam's responsible AI competencies. Looking at the 6-month track as a complete curriculum. Month 1 established platform architecture, the licensing model, admin center navigation, and tenant governance foundations. Months 2 and 3 built core configuration competency, topics, entities, generative AI orchestration, and knowledge source integration. Months 4 and 5 extended that into advanced automation, autonomous agents, Power Automate integration, custom connectors, and MCP tools. Month 6 scales all of it to enterprise deployment. The recommended action is to schedule your AB 100 exam within 2 weeks of today's session. The exam is available online with on-demand scheduling through Pearson VUE. The Microsoft Learn certification page at learn.com/certifications/exams/AB100 includes a skills assessment module. Use it in the first week after this session to identify any domain gaps before the exam date. The window matters. AB 100 candidates who schedule within 2 weeks of completing the track pass at significantly higher rates than those who delay beyond a month. The governance specifics, API authentication patterns, and responsible AI control details are live in your memory today. Schedule while that advantage is intact. You have completed the Senior Copilot Studio Administrator track. 6 months. Foundations in month 1, core configuration in months 2 and 3, advanced automation in months 4 and 5, and enterprise deployment and governance in month 6. The 4 capabilities you are leaving this session with: Teams deployment end-to-end, analytics interpretation for both conversational and autonomous agents, governance automation using the Power Platform API, and responsible AI verification that meets the AB 100 standard. The next step is the exam. Schedule it. Do not let the content cool. Before you leave, one thing you learned in this session that you will use in the next 30 days, And one question you are still sitting with, because if 6 months of learning leaves you with no open questions, we have not gone deep enough. Timing, 5 minutes facilitation tip. Go around the room for the one thing/one question exercise. Write the open questions on a shared board. These become the basis for continued learning and the next track level. This slide drills into app setup policy configuration, the mechanism that removes the user discovery burden entirely. Without a setup policy, a user has to find and install an agent themselves. With one, the agent appears in their Teams client automatically. The 5 steps in the Teams Admin Center. Navigate to Admin, Teams, Microsoft, Com, then Teams Apps, then Setup Policies. Create or edit a policy. For Meridian, you will create at least 2. Click Add Apps and search for your Copilot Studio agent by name. Enable the auto-install toggle to automatically deploy the agent when the policy is assigned to a user or group. Add the agent to the pinned apps list and set a position number to control its placement in the left rail. Step 5 is the most important. Assign the policy. A policy that is not assigned to any users or groups does nothing. Assign via Manage Users for individual assignments or via Group Policy Assignment for broader rollout. On the Policy Options side, Auto-install places the agent in the user's Teams app bar without requiring any user action. Pinning keeps the agent permanently visible in the left navigation rail at the position you specify. Users cannot unpin it by default unless you enable the Allow User Pinning toggle. Policy scope can be individual users, Microsoft 365 groups, or the global org-wide default policy for tenant-wide rollout. The Meridian application. Create a separate policy for the 3,000 all-staff agents using auto-install only, and a second policy for the 400 knowledge workers that includes auto-install plus pinning for the M365 Copilot agents they need regularly. Timing, 8 minutes facilitation tip. Have participants navigate to the Teams Admin Center Setup Policies pane and confirm they can see the policy creation interface. This is often the first time they have accessed it. Question to pose. You deploy a setup policy that pins an agent for all 3,000 Meridian employees. 3 weeks later, leadership decides the agent should be retired. What is the correct sequence to deprovision it cleanly? This is the hands-on analytics workshop. You have 15 minutes and 3 steps. Do all 3 before we debrief as a group. Step 1. Open Copilot Studio, Microsoft. Com, select one of your month 3 through 5 agents, navigate to the Analytics tab and record the session count, engagement rate, and any available sentiment classification. Write these numbers down, they go into Deliverable 3. Step 2. Open Admin, Power Platform, Microsoft. Com and navigate to the Monitor tab. Look at the operational health view for your agent's environment. Note any error rate trends, latency information, or active alerts. If you see nothing, that is also a finding. It means either the agent has very low traffic or monitoring alerts have not been configured. Step 3. While still in the Admin Center, open the Actions pane. Note any flagged items, overshared agents, connectors without DLP policy coverage, or pending remediation recommendations. These findings should inform your deliverable for responsible AI audit. When you share your findings with the group, I want to hear 4 things. Your engagement rate and whether it surprised you, whether your sentiment data was available and what it showed, your most interesting actions pane finding, and whether you had a data sparsity problem. If your session count is under 10, note that explicitly as a data quality limitation in your analytics baseline report. Developer tenant volume is not representative of production. Timing. 50 minutes workshop plus 5 minutes debrief facilitation tip. Walk around during the workshop and check that participants are in the correct panes. The most common error is participants reading the analytics for the wrong agent or reading the environment level summary instead of the agent-specific view. Question to pose. Your agent has a 22% engagement rate. Before you change anything, what hypotheses do you want to test to understand whether this is a quality problem, a discovery problem, or a scope problem? Speaker Notes version 1. 0/session. Senior Copilot Studio Admin Track Month 6/May 2026.